Yeah, we're live. It is 7:24, a little on the late side. Today I want to talk about something kind of cool. It's a little bit specific, so stay with me. It gets a little technical. We want to talk about having the wrong cam. I might even have I got turbo cam. We don't have any turbos. We got blowers. So blower cam, same thing. So today I want to talk about on the test that I ran with the 5.3 liter. Obviously, the NA motor had a very, very big camshaft in it. I mean, it wanted to make power much closer to 7,500 than it did. We only ran, and here's the thing, we ran on the blower motor, we only ran it to 6,600. That's where it seemed to make best power or make peak power. Maybe it would have dipped down and then come back up. I never tried that. I've been thinking about that. I wonder if there's another wave coming with the blower at higher engine speeds, but I didn't try that. So my question is, let's say that we continue to run it to 66 or 6,700 RPM, and that's where it wanted to make power. We've got a camshaft that wants to make power 600-700 RPM higher than that. We know it's a high RPM cam. We know it wants to make it up there because you run it NA a bunch of times with a bunch of different manifolds, the high ram, the low ram, the BTR, Trinity manifold, all these short runner manifolds. It wants to make power up there. And even on the high ram, and we ran the blower with the high ram. So we have that runner length. So it's the same thing under boost. I want to know what you guys think. So the question is could we make more power at 6,600 RPM with a smaller camshaft? Would a smaller cam make more power there? With that, are we letting all the boost bleed out of the exhaust with that bigger cam? I don't think that that's the case. But if we have a camshaft, for instance, let's say we have a camshaft, and here's my point of all of this. If we run two camshafts, we run this fairly good size, certainly for a 5.3, this stage 4 LS3 camshaft. Doesn't matter that it was designed for cathedral port head or for rec port heads. That's okay. Stay with me. I've used this cam a lot. In fact, we used this cam on the Big Bang 5.3 liter, and it made good power, made power up there fairly high. My question is, in fact, with these heads also, but in unported form. My question is, if I run an NA cam and the NA cam makes more power at 6,600 RPM, will it also do that under boost? It's an interesting question. I tend to think yes. In fact, somebody made a comment about this, and my first response was, it's not going to make more power. It's a smaller cam, so it's going to make less power. And if it does indeed make less power NA, it's going to make less power under boost. But when we shift the RPM range, maybe the cam that made less peak power because it's smaller might make more power at 6,600. In fact, I don't know if I don't have anything to look that up directly because I didn't run anything else. I don't think I've compared anything to that particular cam in a direct comparison. So for instance, if we ran the red hot cam or the hot rod cam and it wanted to make, it made more power NA with these manifolds, with these shorter runner manifolds, and it made it more at 6,600, would it do that under boost? You would think that the answer would be yes, right? So let's see. Phrase it. So let's see. make it simple. Okay, I think I got it. If a cam makes more horsepower NA at 6,600 RPM, will it make more under boost at 6,600 RPM with the blower? So the question is, will a smaller cam make more power? and specifically at that RPM, because that's really the kicker, I think. I think that's really going to kind of determine it. Because we're not really taking advantage of all of what that cam has to offer. I mean, the motor does make more NA power, but we're never up where that cam is really good. We're at the point where it's, all the boost is leaking out. So let me know what you guys think. Let's see how people are doing tonight. Burns is here back. Stango Niner. Every cam is the wrong cam. Exactly. It's the wrong turbo cam. Tech Talk Dirty. Holly has a big end of the year sale going on. Yeah, I mentioned that in the video. Just watched 7,400. Surprised me. And the other ones were, the other shorter ones are higher than that. So Brandon, I don't know if I've watched any of Scotty's stuff. I know that he has a lot of views, that's for sure. How can someone get that supercharger adapter or even a template of one? You can buy right now. You can get it from Tom Demuse. You're gonna be able to get them from me pretty soon. What's your opinion on Pro Chargers? Every one that I've run has worked really, really well. It's a centrifugal blower, so they do what centrifugal blowers do. I have an 07 Brandon. I have an 07 Chevy Tahoe and an F350 turbo. Can I use it? Plus, I want to do a cam swap to eliminate AFM. The F350, is that from some turbo diesel thing? With everything you taught me, there's definitely a happy medium. I mean, there's definitely going to be a cam that would be a better choice than the one that I have in there, depending on what you wanted to do. If you're building it as a driver or a towing thing, or there's going to be better cams for that. Peak power is kind of what we're talking about. I'd like to see a manufacturer test, get a custom ground cam and tell them the same weight, RPM range, etc. I don't know what you mean. Are you asking to just tell different manufacturers that you have the same motor and see what they come up with? That's just going to be a different cam test if they supply you different things. No, but a smaller cam will probably make a tick more boost, but the flow of the big cam counters by increasing efficiency. So whatever cam makes less power NA, the boost will be higher on that cam. Not because it's a blower cam, not because that's a good thing. That's because it makes less power NA, so it's going to have more resistance to the flow. And the combination is going to be, the boost is going to be higher, but the power is going to be down. Smaller cam will probably, let's see. Are most people using power at 35 to 400 range or 65 to 7 in boosted applications? It depends on, that's not a question of NA application versus boosted application. The question is, what are they using their boosted application for? If you're running a turbo 4.8 or 5.3 at the drag strip, you're not going to be using 3,500 to 4,000. You're going to be using 6,000, 7,000 or more in a lot of cases. If you're using it for driving around and towing, you're going to be using the 3,500 to 4,000 RPM range, much, much more. Eric, what's going on? Eric Wilson, 8720 cam, smaller camshaft will make more boost, but the same horsepower. I don't think that's going to happen. Would stop calling it smaller or bigger. You need the correct specs to maximize cylinder pressure. That's not true. There's no exact single cam that's going to be best for this application. That's an incorrect assumption. We're talking about now about a smaller cam. So if this is a 245 at 50, a 220 at 50 is going to be smaller. What cam is best for drivability on an LS? Not just high peak power, but something that makes good power all through the RPM range and does make you lose and doesn't, I'm assuming, doesn't make you lose torque. Instead of asking for absolutes like that, just tell us what kind of vehicle you have and what engine you have, and I can suggest a good camshaft for it. Unless the pressure maker is too small, the boost is going to set the power rate. You can move the RPM that power is made, but not the maximum amount. Again, that's not accurate. That's not how blowers work. We just saw that. We made a lot more power with the 5.3 than we did with the 4.8. It didn't just shift where it was made. In fact, we were running the 4.8 to 6,600 also. But it does lower the pressure. Robert, I'm a 351 Cleveland guy. I have 351 Clevelands there too, up on the channel. You went from Colorado up in here. 6,600 on a 5.3 on an M90. You're asking a lot out of the little blower. It's 18,700 RPM right there with the blower, with the pulley combinations that we have. Indian Lake, Ohio. I don't know where Indian Lake is, but I was up in Alliance, I think. Pure mud racing pro chargers are for traction limit applications and track cars due to better thermals over roots and turbos. Richard has a video comparison. I don't know what you mean by better thermals. The charge temperature is going to be lower on a turbo than it is on a centrifugal. I guess it depends on the turbo too. Super Honda Z50A. Yeah, that's nice. Honda Z50 swap. There we go. Yeah. It'll definitely make more. It's like class racing. There has to be a 50 millimeter restrictor on it. You plant the cam peak where it's maximizing boost, or you pull a Toyota and a big cam and a workabout. Tests have shown that adding boost doesn't change the curve, but rather the number under normal boost circumstances, that is. So if an NA peaks at 66, then under boost, it would be the same. On a not under boost. On a turbo, it does that. On a turbo, we're adding the same amount of boost to the NA combination at every RPM range. The power curve will be the same. We're not doing that with a positive displacement blower. One thing, we have a falling boost curve with a positive displacement blower, and we also have probably a restrictive inlet and a less efficient rotor combination at that higher blower speed. So we have a lot of things that are going to make it not do that. Only the turbo with the same amount of boost running in its efficiency range will do what I talk about there. We've got 71 people in here. Let's give a thumbs up. Yeah, we got 81 now and only 21 thumbs up. So we got 60 people that are not thumbs up people. Come on, people. Get your thumbs up. Turbo or Pro Charger, which do you prefer? I don't prefer one or the other. They both can do great things. What you're trying to do is usually going to dictate the power adder that you want. Best cam for drivability on an L77, not just peak power, but power. You should put a Truck Norris cam in it. You'll be happiest with that. If you don't want to change the converter, I don't know if you want to change the converter, but no torque loss. Having a cam that's not going to have any torque loss, even down at 1,000 RPM or something, is going to be hard to do. But a Truck Norris in an L77 will be fine. Richard, what about a cam gear so you can up the specs a little more in your favor? I don't know. We could try that. You could try advancing and retarding the cam to see what we're going to do. I think that this cam is not right for what we're doing. It just happened to be in the motor, and it made good NA power, so it makes for a good comparison. It wouldn't be the cam that I would normally put in anything. I mean, other than the NA motor, it worked really good. It wouldn't be the cam that I would put in an M90 blown LS motor, though. Hey, first 5.3 build, will a comp cam 469 and TBSS intake with stock heads and manifold give me a real noticeable gain or smaller cam? It will give you a noticeable gain. It'll all be on the top of the RPM range. That's a pretty good size cam for a 5.3. So I don't know if you're driving this around. If you're driving it around, you'll be happier with a smaller cam. If you're taking it to the track, you'll be happy with that cam. John, well, if you have two questions, you should just start off with one of the questions. Get away. What's going on? Get away from me. The higher RPM cam 5.3 will make really good power with a 98 millimeter turbo. Yeah, it would come on boost, right? Put a big cam in it with two GT45s. Yeah, that's 1,500, 1,600 horsepower with a turbo. Turbos. Caprice L77. Correct approximately 3 times engine speed for those blowers. Well, it's only 3 times engine speed because we've pulleyed the heck out of it. Normally, it's less than 2. On the factory motors, it's less than 2 because they have about a 6-inch crank pulley. Might be a little bigger than that. A 3.8-inch blower pulley, though. So I know it's not a 7.6-inch. Long run building a turbo setup, just trying to get familiar with swaps so I can kind of gap rings for future boosts and all. Make sure to tune. How do you feel about a Summit Stage 4, 234, 248, 113? Yeah, that's a big cam. So you have PRC 220 heads. What intake manifold do you have on there, Rodriguez? All the manufacturers would have different cams. They might think you need a different power band. One company might make more peak power while a different one. Yeah, that's just a cam test. If they give you different cams, that's just a cam test. And since I've tested everything from a stock cam all the way up to whatever kind of cam might fit, we know what all the stuff in the range in the middle part does. I think if you gave them specs enough, I think you'd be surprised that they would give you, like, I'll bet if you told them that I want a, performance truckish cam, you'd get a Truck Norris and you'd get a Chupacabra. I don't know what the other guys would give you that would be like that, but they might be like the ones that I tested from Cam Motion and from, who else did I run? I don't think I ran a Comp version, but Comp has something that's kind of like that. I think if you ask for a stage 1 or stage 2 truck cam, you explain the situation, that's what it called for. I think they would give you those. But what you will get is, and this is wholly subjective, I I have this conversation a lot with the various cam manufacturers. Their sales team, individual people in their sales team can steer you in a different direction. Sometimes it's bigger cam. Oh, you need a stage 2 or stage 3 NA cam in there. I'm like, no, you don't. Not in a 5.3. Guy's going to drive it around. He's got a converter. He's got a little converter, and he's got like a, I don't know, a 2500 or something in it. He does not want a 230 plus degree camshaft in it. I know that's the one that makes the big power, but he's not going to be happy with that. And so we go through that a lot. Richard, when are you getting a hold of the new Summit Turbo? Did you ever get Mellings cams? I don't think I got cams from Mellings. I did, however, just find, which I've had now for a while. I probably will test them next time I go down there. The guys from Elgin sent their sloppy stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 cams. There's 4 cams though, so I'm assuming that there are 4. Maybe it's 1 and 1.5 and 2 or whatever. So I can compare all those, which would be good. Another trick is to hog out the inlet of the blowers. Did you watch the video that we did? We did that, but we're also porting it even more now. Why choose blowers and turbos when you can have both? LMG versus LY5. What are you trying? Are you running them stock, or are you doing buildups on? Let's see. So LMG is a Gen 4 5-liter. $9.9 to 1, $3.15. So aren't they? They're really comparable, right? But does one make more torque than the other? Yeah, they're really comparable, right? Richard, have Gap factory rings before on left stock rod bolts, but upgraded head bolt set up as an 86 C10 with a 5.3 blow through carb set. That's normally what I do. We reuse we reuse the factory rings, the main bolts, um, all of that stuff we reuse. I put in head studs and new head gaskets normally. Dirt. If you have forged rods and a cast crank, well, we've gone to 1500 on cast cranks, so you can put in whatever you want on that crank. It's not a problem. John, what is it? What is your question about? What those are both 5.3s, right? What do you want to know about them? How much horsepower can a stock LQ4 crank? Well, we've done 1500 on them, so you're going to break a factory rod or piston before you do the crank or the block. 7665 T4 96 AR sub 500 46 2V too big. Is it 500 with the turbo or a 500 NA 46? Then you're adding the turbo, because if it's only 500, you need to go to a smaller turbo. What do you think about twin spark plugs in the Hemi engine? I think it's a terrible idea every time I have to buy plugs for a Hemi, but I think it's probably necessary given the. I mean, I think that they did it for emissions. I don't know if it's necessary for power. I've not tried to run a single one, and see what happens. Seth, we've tried twin charging many times, and in fact we ran these blowers on the V6 with a turbo blowing through them, and it works fine. Mr. RC, your 231, 239 cam is fine. The 640, 629 stuff, I would like to see it have less lift. I think it would be more stable if it didn't have those lift numbers. You don't need those kind of lift numbers. You could run a much smaller cam on an F1A94 and still make, I don't know how much you're trying to make, but you can go way into 4 digits with that blower. Everyone on the internet says my 2000 W6 on 250 shot with FBO would scatter but 2 years and 30 10-pound bottles later. What am I doing wrong? The internet says the internet's always right. You got to do what you got to do, man. You do your thing. Keep doing your thing. On the 2650 for race only, we go 21,000. Damn, the thing is singing. Yeah, that's a lot. And if you've particularly in a lot of 2650 guys haven't seen it, but if you've seen the data on what happens if you run a 2650 at 20 pounds, at 20,000 RPM, if you run it for like a minute, bad things are going to happen. Ported truck intake with LS3 throttle body. I think that's I think that's too much camshaft for that motor with that intake manifold. Let's see. Is there such a thing as too big of a cam with a manual trans? Yes. Oh, yeah, 3,000 stall converter, very street strip. Need compression on a small motor to light a big turbo. But the compression isn't where I would be going to get that thing lit, because then you cause problems if you go too high. Jack stands, what's going on? Airplanes use twin sparks like Hemis, but for extra power. I've article saved about it. I want a twin spark Hemi versus LS video. Okay. I've run lots of Hemis that have 2 spark plugs. Yeah, Burns is right about the compression. Unless you're the only time I see guys running high static compression is when they're class limited by a turbo or a blower or something, and then they have to maximize also the NA power output to go with whatever the blower is going to help them do. So if you have let's say you have a 78 millimeter turbo that you have to run, well, to get the most out of that turbo, you're gonna see guys run lots of weird combinations where they're trying to maximize everything, because you have to look somewhere else, but you can't just add more boost. 81 people watching. There's only 6 likes. There's a lot more likes than that. Yeah, Burns, and I'm sure you guys have mentioned, I don't know if I've seen it in the comments yet, but as you go higher and higher compression, your tuning window gets really, really narrow. Did a similar intake for 5.7 Hemi I have on the run stand now. I cut the inlet off flush with the manifold and epoxied an aluminum snout and a 92 millimeter throttle body on it. Testing it soon. The interesting manifolds are the new ones, the new 5.7s and 6.4s that have the throttle body that's 90 degrees to the inlet, what we normally associate with the inlet of the manifold. Coyotes are good. They make lots of power. Check out Billy Spain with Yellow Z, Northern California's 388-inch, 118 millimeter turbo high compression O-ring, 12.5 to 1. I don't need to look at somebody else's thing. I know how boosted motors work, and I know how high compression motors work. I understand what they do pretty well. Blown away with vintage stock appearing cars going low 9s. I know, that is really neat. Those fast guys are fast. Planning on getting a sloppy stage 2 for my 6.0. Do I need anything else than springs to make it fit with a 799 heads? I'd also put 706 heads on. No, a sloppy stage 2 on a 6-liter will fit without any problem. You do need springs on whatever head you decide to use. The Corvette 427 is a king of that, it seems. Is it an L88 427? Two engine I'd love to see you run, the 1GZ FE. Oh, a 12-cylinder Toyota and a 2JZ. I couldn't find any videos of them on your channel. I have never run either one of those, and neither one of those are really on the list. Maybe a 2J or a 1J from a wrecking yard from an IS 300 or something might interest me. A V12 would be really cool. It's just a lot of work to get it to work on the dyno. I'm thinking about running a BTR LS7 stage 1 or 2 in my LS3 with a short runner intake for autocross. Are you just keeping lots of RPM? Is that why you're doing that? Maybe change to trick flow AFR cathedral heads. Would you advance the cam 2 to 4 to help the intake valve close? I don't have any idea what the specs are on that, but I wouldn't pick a cam that I would then need to change though. And I don't think I would pick an LS7 cam for that application, particularly if I think that there's lots of other good cams that you could use. Normally the LS7 stuff has fairly high lift. Rodriguez, take a look at a BTR, maybe a hot rod cam for that. Why are there 22 likes and 61 votes on the poll? There's 48 thumbs ups and 73 people, and there's 83% on the poll. 64 votes on the poll. I need the broke budget version of a L59 500 horsepower all motor explained in a nutshell. We ran an L33, but you could do it with any 5.3 flat top pistons, because we have those stock. Really good set of heads. We have the ASCAS 220s that have been further modified, so you need head flow. You need a good size camshaft. We have that stage 4 camshaft, and then you need a high RPM intake. It's better, I think, as a combination. If I were road racing or doing something, it's a better combination that makes less peak power, but with a fast manifold on it is the way that I would go. What do you think about air gap piston rings? They are chamfered, so the ring pushes outward instead of trying to cut the top of the piston off. I don't know what an air gap piston ring is. I have lots of experience with chamfered rings, but I don't recognize that name. Jack Stan, you did an 8.1 vortex swap. Now I'm trying to wire in a gauge cluster from a 2001 truck that also came with an 8.1. So far, it looks like the outputs from the ECU will go to the ECU. Good. Easier to get a shelf cam from BTR, and I like their new lobes. The lobe lift should be the same if you can convert it to a 1.7 for drag racing. The cams for LS7s are not just a lobe lift change. For drag racing, what platform would you go with? You'd have to figure out what kind of drag racing you're doing and what are other people running and what's working. You'd have to look at a lot of stuff to decide what kind of platform you'd want. So you like to see lower lift. You just don't need 640 lift to make power, but 640 lift will decrease stability normally. I'd have to see the cam to see what's going on, and it'd be best if it was tested obviously on a Spintron so that we could actually see how bouncy or floaty it is. But you just don't need that kind of lift to make power. It's talking about gas porter rings. Okay, gas porter rings make more sense. It's in my Fox Mustang. I think about putting twin 88s on 1401 compression, running 6 pounds of boost. Okay. I don't. Are you here for us to talk you out of that and tell you why that's not a good idea? 224, 232 for 6,500. There's so many things going on. For what size motor? I haven't played with nitromethane yet. How do you feel about the AR5 transmission? I don't know that I've ever run one. Mostly T5s for Mustang stuff and then T56 stuff, but not an AR5 that I can remember. Those are poll 80% saying yes, it will make more under boost. I have no idea, and like most transmissions, I'm fairly confident that they would have different models and different applications that had different gear splits in them. But that's what you should be looking at if you're. I don't know what you're doing with it, if you're drag racing or road racing or whatever. It's built a 489 with 26 degrees of timing and 4 degrees advance at the crank and 2 500 horsepower bottles of nitrous. Okay. What's the most nitrous you've seen on aluminum block LS1 with stock bottom end? I don't know. I don't ever remember that being any sort of metric that I've ever talked about. We've run 300 shots on junkyard 5.3s. They were iron block ones, but the iron and aluminum block isn't an issue for nitrous. That's not going to come into play with those. That's not a terribly high amount of power. It's a pretty good sized gain from the nitrous, but we already know that the block and the crank will go, mid four digit power levels. So that's not a thing, as long as you could keep the tune right in it. But we have run semi-successfully shot 300 shots on stock bottom end 5.3s. Your radars are going off again? Yeah. For the engines you dyno, what's the ideal air fuel? I don't know what you mean by ideal. We tune it so that it stops making power and that we don't lean it out anymore. So there's no one ideal number. There's only what you're doing on that motor. So sometimes after 12.5 or 12.3 and you go to 12.6 or 7 or 8, it doesn't gain any power. So we just leave it at a safer air fuel ratio. If you had to make maximum power under 5,000 on a 5.3, how would you do it? You would do it with boost. Maybe you can test one day. Part number 25 TSP. Brandon, free valve is not probably going to be a thing. I don't think. I think that went away. It would be cool if we could have infinite cam timing. That would be awesome. Honda has a hydrogen powered car. I remember seeing hydrogen stuff way back. The Roush guys did one with one of the colleges and brought it out to Bonneville, and the people at Bonneville like freaked out. They were worried that it was going to be a bomb, that it was going to blow up or something, and because they were worried because it was hydrogen, they didn't know. And I'm like, dude, it's not going to do that. And so they put them out by themselves. And they were laughing. So we went out and parked next to them. We're like, dude, we're with you. We're solidarity. And then we saw them in the bar, and we're like, dude, we got to buy you a drink. We think that that's awesome. I said, but I have to tell you that you kind of missed out. I wanted you guys to put the LEDs that go from, green to yellow to red and make it do that while it's going through tech. They're like, oh, dude, that's genius. I said, and then when it goes into red, like make a siren or something go off. They're like, oh yeah, we would definitely get kicked out for that. But it's all fun stuff. I hear people making power with an air fuel of 15 to 1. They're not making peak power at 15 to 1. That's way too lean. that they could get good fuel mileage like that. 12.8, that's a reasonable one for an NA motor under power. It's a trip because clean water comes out the exhaust pipe and you can drink it. I know. That's what the byproduct is. How is that not awesome? That's a perfect byproduct. That's like a helpful one. I don't know what the carbon footprint is for production of hydrogen though. How hard is hydrogen? I know how it's made, but there still has to be an energy source to do that. So I'm wondering how cost effective it is. Seth, yes is the answer to your question. Do you think GM was serious when they said they were going to no cam and solenoid actuated valves? It's been tried for a really, really long time. And I didn't know that anybody had perfected it, but we'll see. Seems like a new cam would better match the high ram needed for the M90. Why do you think that the high ram needs a different cam? Almost all hydrogen right now is produced as a byproduct of petroleum. Solar power electrolysis would be the only real sustainable option. Yeah. See, I was wondering that there's got to be a reason that they're not going down that road. Well, Burns, that having it produce water would be a beneficial thing because that's on the list of all of the doomsday things is water. It's a really long list. So we're at 81%, 75 votes. We're going to end our poll as a big yes. Smaller cam, more power. So the question then becomes, if you run two blowers where you're not limited in blower, and we run a cam that's a 7,500 RPM cam, and the intake is a 7,500 RPM intake, what happens then? Does the power keep climbing? I think it does. 10% of the atmosphere is hydrogen. Not sure how you get it from there. Could we ask it really nicely to separate? Has Westech gotten in a 5.2 Predator engine from Ford? Manufacturers don't really give Westech engines, so I don't know what you mean by that. Have they tested one from somebody else? Is that your question? The new Koenigsegg has a 3-cylinder camless engine. Yeah. Dirt, are you going to find out what? You need a special twin blower cam. We do. We almost need a twin cam motor, right? What's the 7,500 RPM cam you're going to use? We already have it in there. Do they make an adapter, intake, or plate to install an M90 on a Mopar or Magnum? Somebody will. Me. Utah has been having some worries about water. Yeah. Well, and until we got a ton of rain last year, I think the Lake Mead was a problem. The Hoover Dam, all of that stuff was not good. You plan on trying these different combos out. Which different combos are you talking about? Getaway. He wants to use the 1-3 rockers. They will work. I'm hoping that they made just a different ratio, that they didn't make them less structurally sound. I wouldn't think that they would. Because most guys breaking them in aren't running RPM and stuff. And so they're not really subjected to the same kind of RPM loads. They're still subjected to the spring load, but I think it would work. I mean, there has to be somebody who's already made pulls with the 1-3 rockers in it, right? FFRE de-stroked a 5.2 back to a 5-liter. So did they keep the big bore then on the 5.2? Or is the bore size the same? I don't know what they did on that motor. Cam and intake combos on the 5.3. So which ones do you want to see that I haven't already done? Because I've done, I think, every conceivable combination of intake manifolds and camshafts on 5.3s. Yeah, camless engines are the future, mark my words. Okay. I read on a forum that a Mopar B block, that is a 440 cubic inch, and an RB engine that is for 440 cubic inch cam and heads, the same shorter deck height engine will make more power. Is there any truth to that? The shorter deck height will have a different intake manifold in it. It will have a different runner length intake manifold on it, which might do something there. What else did they change? If there's a shorter deck height, did they? Is this going to be a rod ratio question? Did they change the rod ratio in it? Yeah, we have a world record, right? Yeah, that was all in jest. You want RPM build 377? Where's the 7.3 content? I've never run one. I've never run a Godzilla. There's plenty of Godzilla stuff out there. 212, 218. Matt says it'll be 450-ish with the 1.3. Okay. You'll lose a little bit of duration too, but not a lot. Test a set of AFR 210 LS1 heads. They're as cast. They said there'll be a small bore version as well. Would love to see these versus stock and big cams. I'd like to see what the flow numbers are on those. And we've been trying to get Airflow Research to make a 5.3 head for forever. From back when Tony Mama was there. He's not excited about it, but needs a spare vehicle. Yeah. Mark my words, I saw 377 small Chevy tack stuck at 12,500. The 12,500, if it's real, had nothing to do with the 377. It had everything to do with the valve train. ZZ Performance has a lot to bolt on the 3.8. Yeah, they have a lot of stuff. I use their pulleys. Who is a father and son team that seem to be leading all the camless engine designs? Brandon, thank you very much. I will take Lisa out and buy her a frosty cold beverage. Top chat. We'll go to live chat for just a couple minutes. I have to get going. What can would you use on a 6-liter going in a half ton? Do not want to lose a lot of low end. 11 to 1 compression, 4L80, 373 gears. How did you achieve 11 to 1, Larry? Do you have a flat top piston and then a 706 head or something? How did you get it up to 11 to 1? And more importantly, why did you choose 11 to 1? M1. I don't. I would like to see a test on a B and an RB engine if all they change is the deck height, and then see what, because if they have a different deck height, if it's enough of a change, they change the intake manifold too. So it's a different intake manifold. So if there's a different power curve, it could be as simple that as it's just a different intake manifold. So if the compression was the same and the camshaft was the same and the compression cam, the cylinder heads were the same, the only thing that's not going to be the same is the intake manifold. And then if they change the deck height, they would have had to change either. It would be better if they just changed where the piston is in the where the pin is in the piston. If they had to change the rod length, then you probably have a change in weight of the rotating assembly. So there's some changes there. I don't know what they're attributing it to. But I don't think that I don't think the changes in the bottom part of the motor, whatever they are, a rod length or a pin position, I don't think that's going to change the power curve. That's my opinion. I think if the big things are the same, the displacement, and in this case, the bore and stroke are the same. So we didn't change one of those because we know that the bore makes power and torque makes stroke is what everybody says. I don't think that's the case. If we all chipped in, what would you want to build? If you keep chipping in until we get to the point where I could get a McLaren F1, that would be awesome. But I need extra money because I need to twin turbo it though. Because you can't have as much as I love the McLaren F1, and I would take that over any other car. It would have to have turbos on it though, because it would have to never lose a race. The FR Enforcer heads are available at Summit part number. I happen to have Summit gift cards right here. I think I covered the number up. Can we put the M90 on a McLaren? I don't think I would do that. They would have to be not just turbos, but they'd have to be some kind of like symmetrical fancy turbos. Like I talked to Tom Nelson or something. Because it's less than 700 horsepower, right? In the McLaren F1, it would need to be like, it had to at least be in the 4 digits. BS show, you're trying to make power in 1400 to 4400 RPM. You should go with a stock cam or less than stock cam. 9-to-1 compression. I don't know. You should be looking for should I roughly push for what boost? I think you're going to have problems making boost at 1400 RPM, and not just the ability to do it, which can be done with a small enough turbo or a blower, but it's going to be a little bit of a tuning issue. Do bigger cylinder heads make low RPM torque worse, like a big cam and a short runner intake? I'm assuming that you're talking about. They can, but not nearly as much as people think. I have some cylinder head tests up, and you can take a look at that. I don't know how low we rev the motor down to, but we ran like a 175 and a 190 and a 210 and a 225, I think. Yeah, Nelson's stuff is exemplary. Yeah, VS does make mirror image turbos too. But if I have a McLaren F1, I'm gonna have like, really, really high dollar turbos on it. What about the GMA T50 instead? Basically the sequel for that car for $3 million. I don't want the other ones. I don't like the other McLarens. I like the F1 best. I couldn't find one of my piston buttons. Uh-oh, that's not good. That's like having 15 push rods. What? That has happened to me so many times. Big torque at low RPM is also rough on rod bearings. Yeah. The 377 broke at turbo 400 trans with a 500 shot of nitrous at the start line and revved to 12,500. So it did it once and then broke. Is that what happened? Rover V8 1400 boost via an M90 or a 112 or 122. What is problematic? It's still X power under the curve. Okay, you go do what you want. You try to make boost at 1400 RPM like a diesel does on a gas engine, and it's not nearly as forgiving. $1.37 million. That's a lot. T50 revs to 12,000. Yeah, that has a really, really high RPM. It's not an NA motor though, right? Is it a small twin turbo deal? Gordon Murray T50. An all-new bespoke 4-liter naturally aspirated V12 developed by Cosworth. Rated at 654 horsepower, 11,500 with a maximum torque of 344 foot-pounds at 9,000. That's a really good specific torque output, right? $86 foot-pounds per liter. Let's see. Time 61. That's a pretty good output. T50 features one of the highest power to weight ratios amongst its class. 122 kilowatts per liter. 163.7 horsepower. Nice. Per liter. That's a lot. That's a big number. Who makes the best budget turbos? I've used that GT45 forever, and lots of people make it because I'm sure it comes from the same company. The ones that I use DNA ones. Brian Tooley has them. Lots of different people sell that turbo. So I don't know who actually makes it. The guys from VS Racing, I've had good success with all their stuff. I've actually had good luck with the stuff from CX Racing also. I don't know that I've only ever had one turbo go bad on me. The Rover guy needs a turbo diesel. The 1400 RPM thing just worries me. It's so much torque or so much cylinder pressure and problematic that they use fan activated aero. Yeah. Cool thing about the T50 is it's got crazy engine and weighs like 2,200 pounds. That is all cool. There's no doubt about that. That I can see why people would think that that's awesome. That's just not the one that speaks to me. They read the T50 to 13,000 confirmed. Well, Cosworth knows a thing or two about making high RPM motors, so Richard, Mercedes just got out this engine, a 2-liter making 400 horsepower, 200 horsepower per liter. It's making 200 horsepower per liter naturally aspirated? Matthew, it's going to be about the way that we test it. That's kind of like the combination that we put together on the LY6. So maybe a little higher compression. That one was 540-ish. I wonder what a Judd V10 would be like. I can tell you they sounded really good when I was at Daytona. It's supercharged and turbocharged, but it's 2 liters. Yeah, but 400 horsepower from a boosted 2 liter is not. I mean, from a production motor, it's good, I guess, but that's not an impressive number for. It would be impressive if they did an NA. That would be really impressive. I was going to ask what kind of RPM it is. If you tested a Cosworth YB, that would be nice. My bucket list is a Mercedes V12. I have seen those in wrecking yards, actually. Turboed, pure turbonium, chock full of turbo-y goodness. It's got all those. I got some Summit bucks I need to spend. So what should I buy? For the last minute I'm here, let me know what you guys think I should buy. From Summit. I found some more. I think I'll go Rover 46251 and M112. Get the boost at 1800 and take it to 4500. Rely on the cubes for the 12 to 18. Oh, I'm curious why you're trying to make power down low. Is this a generator motor or something? What are you doing with it? Buy a Pro Charger. I'm not going to buy a Pro Charger. I've run lots and lots of those. I don't have Pro Charger Summit money. I like to swap an S85 V10 to an M3. Tesla Plaid. Those have immediate torque. And on that note, see, that's Bruno telling me it's time to go. That note, it is time to go. I will see you guys all tomorrow. And it looks like from our poll earlier that we're leaning toward the 396 to see what's going on with the 396. And then after that, then intercooling and intake manifold tests. So what do you guys think? Which one? So before I go, you guys can answer and I'll be gone. Oh, well, we'll wait till tomorrow. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. So much to talk about.